Hi guys, welcome to my review of issue 18 of Games Workshop's Warhammer Imperium magazine. For those of you who were watching last week's, or actually 5 minutes ago's, everything was remarkably similar in the same place. That's because due to delays in that, I've getting no magazines for a while, then 2 magazines at once. So I am behind even on this one, and I was very behind on last week's one, or 5 minutes ago's one, however you want to do it. This issue comes with a Necron Technomancer, who has this big, beautiful base, which actually says with hex holes on it, but it doesn't actually have any hex holes. And we've got this, frankly, quite lovely piece of tech, which is a Technomancer. It's very nice looking, as are a lot of the newer Necron models. Yeah, this is fantastic looking, very techno-Egyptian as you'd expect. Some very fine bits and pieces. I don't know if you can see the 2 little fingers there, but they are very, very fine, so be careful when making this. And the copyright on this is 2017, so it's a 5-year-old sculpt. So it's not one of the newest, it's not one of the newer sculpts, but it is still fairly new, or at least in gaming terms. Some fantastic details, and what looks like a great model, including some bits for basing and stuff like that. So that looks really nice. And this will be going up to win at the end of this episode, as is all the Necron stuff. Right, let us get into the magazine. The magazine. Oh. That's confusing. Did I drop it? Did it fall out? Bear with me a second. I have the plastic case. If I took it out, I have the plastic case from last week. Nothing has fallen out. Nothing is on the floor. Appears to have been a fib. As I can show you on the back of last week's, I still have it here. And if you watched the last video, it promised us a new double-sided battle mat. And yet, there is no new double-sided battle mat. I feel slighted, hurt. I may even cry. Oh well, that's a shame. Hopefully when you got your issue, you got your double-sided battle mat. I cannot review the battle mat as I did not get it. I must admit, that's the first time they've promised something and it's not been there at all. The plastic bag was sealed, so this is how it arrived, straight from the factory. So, oh well. Anyway, into the magazine again, signed by our Canoptic Lord Ian. It's straight on with the Technomancer, a Cryptech commander. Technomancers belong to the ranks of the Cryptech Necrons, who are masters of science and technology, as opposed to normal Necrons who don't know how science works, apparently. They specialize in repairing damaged Necrons and Canoptic constructs on the field of battle, but they are also lethal warriors in their own right. That's how I imagine Necrons talk in comedy, in comedy value. So that's actually pretty cool. Oh, that's okay. So that's I see. Nifty. This guy's got a few bits on the base, but that means he attaches to those bits so that he appears to be floating. I do approve of GW actually using model bits to make their flying characters fly, as opposed to clear plastic bits. It just looks better. It goes on to describe his weapons, including the Staff of Light and the Canoptic Cloak, which allows the wearer to fly with the aid of its built-in spider construct. The cloak can also repair damaged Necrons. That's weird. It also goes on to say, in addition to creating and maintaining the Necron's technology, Canoptic cryptechs often act as viziers and advisors to the Necron nobility. That's how you can tell they're good guys. Nobody called a vizier has ever been the bad guy. Let's have a look at the next page. We have a battle record for the Necron. We've been seeing these regularly in pretty much every episode. Every issue. I think they're nifty. I like them. I might not use them. It depends on what I'm doing and how I'm playing it. But they are a cool thing with extra added value. This one has some cool bits on it. We have a degradation chart. Basically, as they get old, they get crazy. It's on a D6. 1, obsessed with human technology, is one example. 5 is speaks to canoptic constructs. 4 is captures and studies space marines. You can see how that works in with a lot of the pre-existing Necron lore, so that's pretty cool. You've got weapon creation, a weapon name chart, which has 3 names for the weapons. 1 to 2, you've got Staff of Creation. 3 to 4, Excoriator. 5 to 6, Celestial Annihilator. That's not very many options for naming your weapon. One would assume you can make your own names as well if you want. Next, we've got the Tools of War, Power Armor. Even unarmored, the genetically enhanced transhuman space marines are formidable warriors who can withstand terrible punishment. When clad in suits of ceramite, in suits of ceramite power armor, however, the battle brothers of the Adeptus Astartes are almost unstoppable. In stories and lore. In real life, very stoppable. On the gaming table, very stoppable. It's not for nothing that the phrase exists and dies like a marine. It goes on to describe standard power armor and Terminator armor. I'm not sure if this is the new armor or not, but it describes it pretty much as the same. Then it goes on. There'll be a paper to read in a minute which mentions the battle map. There we go. It then goes on to mention the Tacticus armor, which is the basic Primaris armor, the Omnis armor, which is a jump, pack, and grab shoot equipped version of Gravis armor. You know, because when you're thinking flying, you want to make your heaviest armor fly. You've got Phobos armor, which is a light form of Tacticus armor that sacrifices some of the base armor's durability for greater mobility and speed. And also makes it look like the Space Marine is wearing shorts. And then you've got Gravis armor, the heavier form of the Tacticus armor with thicker reinforced ceramite plates. For those who aren't familiar, which most of you will be by now, the Gravis armor is not Terminator armor and is nowhere near as tough as Terminator armor, but it is slightly tougher, allowing it to be useful for smaller units. There are a lot of 3-man units in the Primaris Space Marine legions. Some of them, well, they're all really good. It's just some of them I fear you'll see fielded less simply because they're £30 for a box of 3 in some cases, and yeah, I'm not paying £10. I'm not paying £10 for a basic model. That's insane. Well, I say I'm not. I can't really justify it. I got 3 kids to feed, man. Next we have Jakari. Which is the Dark or Fallen Elder. It's a cool picture, but it is a tad weird. They seem to basically just be floating rather than jumping. The Jakari are sadistic killers who feed off the despair and anguish and suffering of their victims. The piratical slavers, they raid unsuspecting enemies with lightning speed before vanishing back to their lairs in Komorog. I just dropped the accent on. Komorog, the twisted city that lurks deep in the webway. Basically, prior to there being a Massive Great Rift, there was merely the Eye of Horror. The Eye of Horror was the largest warp space, real space overlap, and was created by the death of the Elder. Now, the Craft World Elder fled. What they call the Virgin World Eldar left long before, either because they were scouting out new worlds to colonize, or because they didn't approve of the path the Eldar were in general going down. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Virgin Worlds, it may or may not still be in the canon. Originally, that's where a lot of the Knights and the Elder Knights came from, because they were on worlds that had been colonized thousands of years ago, and they were using massive machines to basically conquer these worlds, and they were called the Virgin Worlds because they were settled anew before the wars, before the Elder Fall and humanity expansion. So they were pretty much untouched and remain pretty much untouched, because with the fall of the Eldar worlds, there was no one to support them, so they basically remained sparse, populated pockets. But as I say, you have those guys. You have the Craft World Elder who fled once they realised what was going on, or in some cases, literally fled ahead of the wave of corruption that was caused by the birth of Slaanesh. And you've got the Jakari, who didn't manage to get out entirely. Most of them weren't on the Elder World, Elder Homeworld, because they didn't get that got destroyed. But these are the guys who were fleeing, who were caught in with Slaanesh, and these are, in all fairness, what's left of the more realistic Eldar, in that the Eldar have become very hedonistic and very self-involved, very obsessed with experience and pleasures. The initial wave of Eldar who left the Eldar Empire and sort of further out worlds, like the Virgin Worlds, didn't like what was happening, so left. The Craftworld Eldar, the guys who realised how bad it was getting and realised they had to change their ways, otherwise things were going to go wrong. And those guys left either years, months, days, or even hours before the death of the Eldar world. Attempting to save themselves, and since then have begun very much to control and repress their emotions, because they know that excess emotion gets you eaten by Slaanesh. And then you've got the Jakari are the ones who don't. They're the remnants of the Eldar, who were the hedonists, who were the cultists. They have been affected by Slaanesh and by the birth of Slaanesh. They're kind of the nearest thing you get to Chaos Eldar without actually being Fallen Eldar. And there are Fallen Eldar. Every race except the Tau so far has been affected by Chaos, and I suspect with the Tau it's only going to be a matter of time. And for those of you going, oh no, orcs only get affected by Gork and Mork. No, orcs fall to chaos all the time. It's riddled throughout the backstory. Often when you had chaos warbands led by chaos space marines, you'd have orcs with tentacles and chaos orcs following them, both in fantasy and in 40k. The crew, I believe, had one bit where they were affected by chaos, where a bunch of crew fought against chaos marines, ate their flesh, and it messed them up. So now there's an edict to prevent the crew doing that. And pretty much everybody else gets affected by chaos in one way or another. Because of that, the Jakari are very closely aligned with Chaos and with Slanesh, but they're not actually of Slanesh, for the simple reason that Slanesh just eats Elder Souls. He considers them his favorite nomi snack. And all the Eldar factions, the Eldari, the Jakari, and the Harlequins, all have specific ways of trying to avoid getting eaten and getting their souls eaten. Many Jakari supposedly don't have souls anymore. Yeah, their souls are slowly being devoured by Slanesh, and there's not much they can do about it. So they kind of just given themselves over to it, unless they find ways that can prolong their life and keep their souls in their bodies, which they do, and they're desperate to do. But yeah, they're basically degenerates. They do all kinds of weird experiments on each other, basically to make their lives as enjoyable as they can before they die. But at the same time, they will do anything they can to try and prolong that life. As opposed to the Craftworld Eldar, whose souls aren't being eaten by Slanesh, and to avoid getting eaten by Slanesh, they've created soul stones, which are little gems that capture their souls as they die. When you see the gems on the Eldar army, on the Eldar armor, that's what the big gems are. They're soul gems designed to basically capture their soul so that it doesn't get killed by Slanesh. It gets stuck in the soul gem, but those soul gems will then get attached to craft worlds and become part of the machinery of craft worlds, like computer processing units, or they'll get attached to armor or giant armor, or even to armor, Eldar Knights, Eldar Titans, so that they can help run them. Because anything is better than being completely devoured by Slanesh. Not sure what the Harlequins do, but I'm sure they do something. But yeah, this goes to describe what they are, how they work. They use the remnants of the Webway. The Webway was the Elder's secret weapon, and for those of you who don't know, it was what the Emperor was trying to tap into underneath Terror. The idea being, if he could link all his worlds via a human Webway, he could defend any and all of them simultaneously, and he could rule them from Earth. One of the biggest problems the Imperium has is it's just too big to rule. I mean, you get sector chiefs, you get planetary governors, and all kinds of things like that, who are, to all intents and purposes, a law unto themselves, unless something goes really wrong, and then the Imperium has to throw thousands of warriors in, which can take months to build up and years to get there. The Emperor's plan was to do away with this, by replacing it with a warpway. And that would allow humanity to move troops in a matter of days, defending themselves and protecting themselves. It would allow communication and governance from a large central authority, and it would have kept the empire going. There are further bits. One example being that apparently he intended Magnus to be the eventual occupant of the Golden Throne and maintain and take over the Warpway. He was going to apparently sit on the Golden Throne and ascend to being basically the god of humans, similar to a Chaos God, but more like humanity's equivalent of Gork and Mork. You know, a very specific god to them, or humanity's equivalent of Cain the Bloody Handed for the Eldar. And by doing that, he was going to basically try and save humanity from the dark influence of the warp, save their souls being eaten, and be their beneficent god, if you believe the propaganda. So Goose wearing a top hat. Propaganda. Anyway. That didn't happen because Magnus did no wrong right into the middle of it, blowing the whole thing wide open and exposing the Imperium to millennia of unending, relentless, brutal warfare. It's amazing how much wrong Magnus didn't do. The Jakari, however, are part of the Eldar that originally helped build the webway. So they know which parts are safe, they know which parts are not, and they've built a homeworld deep within the webway. They basically got a planet that may exist in real space or may not, depending on what your theory is, but it's hidden and only accessible via the webway. And being as the Eldar control the webway, and none of the Craftworld Eldar really want to have a battle with the Jakari, because there's few enough their numbers anyway, it allows the Jakari to move mostly unhindered and just kill things left, right, and centre without having to worry about being tracked back, which is fairly important because there aren't that many Jakari, just there aren't that many Craftworld Eldars. If you added them all together, you probably struggle to build a legion's worth of troops out of them. You might maybe stretch it to 2 if you're very, very lucky. Which is also why the Jakari use a lot of mutants and other weird things, because they don't really have the numbers for protracted war. Each one wants to live like a king, so they have or queen. So they have hundreds and hundreds of slaves each. Most of the stuff is spent raiding for slaves to make their lives easier and nicer. You've got several other bits here. Jakari Prisoners, Real Space Raiders, the Soul Debt. The Jakari must feed upon the pain of others to sustain themselves. The colossal lairs of their ruling class contain vast dungeons filled with elaborate torture chambers. These places are monuments of pain from which few escape. The Jakari have been eaten by a god of pleasure. They're trying to sustain and prolong their lives with pain, basically. The idea being that it's the opposite of what Slaanesh would want. Unfortunately, to Slaanesh, pleasure and pain are much the same. Primarily because to a lot of the Eldar before the fall, they were much the same. Exquisite pain and things like that were done. And you've got Komarag, the Dark City. And it goes on to explain the shadowy labyrinth and dark towers and crowded slums and starship docks and vast combat arenas of Komarag. So that's pretty awesome. Next, we have the March of the Machines. In the Pariah Nexus, many worlds have been scoured of life by Necrons. Deep in the ruins of an Imperial Forge world, the armies of the Adeptus Mechanicus attempt to recover valuable weapon technology and equipment before it is discovered and destroyed by the Necron foe. So you've got a nice little story here. Just try and fire your imagination. Covering 2 pages as they often do. Next, we've got how to build a Necron Technomancer. In case you're wondering, I imagine carefully. Got a little bit on clipper safety. Don't want to lose your arm or leg to a clipper accident. That's cool. The spine there kind of goes attaches itself directly to the canoptic dude, and that's one of the ways in which the Technomancer is going to be held aloft. Another one, as you can see, you've got these bits here that stick up on the base. So between the two of those, that's going to hold him aloft. It is, as with a lot of the Necrons, going to render him delicate. So again, take good care of him. Make sure you put him into a decent base. So yeah, you don't want him to get knackered. And then we've got how to paint. I've gone through so much of it and gone off kilter so many times. It's a basic paint scheme using the colours that they've already given you. It's obviously not a complete paint scheme, but as the colours expand, so will the paint scheme. Next, we have Hunting the Technomancer. This is this week's mission. It seems to be, yep. It seems to be a slight reverse, but at this point you've both got soldiers of last week's mission. In this case, you've got the Technomancer and 4 Scorpeg destroyers versus a Primaris lieutenant. Sorry, 3 Scorpeg destroyers and 3 Primaris aggressors. That seems much more evenly matched. You've basically got a cool leader and 3 heavies attacking each other. So yeah, that's going to go through. They've got a how-to on a canoptic cloak. Pick a friendly unit within 3 of this model. That unit has lost wounds. Sorry, within D3 of this model that has lost wounds, and roll D3 within 3 inches. Yeah, the damage unit regains as many wounds. So you've got some cool stuff there. You've got some more stuff about Necrons. And you've got this wonderful thing about a battle map. Using scenery that you've either got or you're going to be getting with this. It goes on about how the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Necrons in issue 21 to 40 of the Imperium, the Adeptus Mechanicus march on the battlefield to reinforce their Space Marine allies. So that's cool. So it looks like we'll be getting some Adeptus Mechanicus. That's fantastic. Does mean I might end up having to buy another codex, but I'm not that fussed. To reinforce the Space Marine allies, dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and the Almighty on the side, they seek to utterly destroy the Necron foe. It's got a beautiful image of sort of like the black sands and things there, and on the reverse it has what looks like a polar an ice or cold world image, which looks pretty cool. Now, before I go to next, we have this wonderful piece of paper. What I shall read to you now. Dear customer, we regret to inform you that your new battle mat is not included with this issue, as advertised in your magazine. We apologise for this, which is down to a production delay. The battle mat will now be included with issue 21 in time to start battling your Necrons and the forces of the Imperium. Thank you for your patience. Hatchet Partworks. Isn't that lovely? So basically, they've had a production delay, which doesn't surprise me, to be honest, with all the COVID and the Omicron 19 and Brexit and the various details, having slowed down the import of certain materials, reducing the amount of truckers and lorry drivers on our roads temporarily, I'm sure, or permanently, who knows. It's hardly surprising that this hasn't been slowed down. Getting these magazines themselves was slowed down. I don't know if that is in general, if you guys are getting them late, or that's just my locale. But I have got them, and fingers crossed things will go back to normal soon. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope to be more regular. That sounds wrong. I hope to be putting out the videos in a more regular standard pattern after this. I think this is just a combination of Christmas and weird delays and stuff. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys, fingers crossed, next week.